Hola from the Hawk from sunny Mexico. I've been screeching to the senoritas on the beaches and beating some geeks rearranging their features so they have to come back as mass lucharitas. Holy Hawk, nobody has made a top 10 worst TNA matches video. I'm not a massive fan of list type videos, but I'll always do it if nobody else has. My main criteria when judging a match for the top 10 was botches, but also I'm going to try and throw some lesser known matches in this video to keep you all entertained. Now it's time to go insane. You know what, actually, by the way, big shout out to my editor Grizzly Bear, for without his help you'd be getting 0 Hawk for 2 weeks. If you want to punch him in the gut, I'll leave a link for him below. Number 10, Trinity vs Kid Cash, NWA TNA, 23rd of April 2003. Admittedly, this match does have a fiery start, and Trinity is in top form at this point in her career. She's a real highlight of the show, which is why this match surprised me so much when it was bad. Trinity gives Kid Cash a few smacks for the disrespect he's been showing her in recent weeks leading up to this episode of NWA TNA. Trinity and Kid Cash honestly aren't bad in the beginning, but then it's like a powder keg exploded. Trinity with a beautiful moonsault, even though she lands on her head pretty hard to the outside. That one was painful to watch. Cash then follows that by launching a chair directly into her face off screen. Almost felt like that one was deliberate. I know Cash had that move called Smash Mouth, but it's Kid Cash. Honestly, the energy for this match is very good, so that's why it's high on this list. Trinity definitely botches a couple of landings, and there are a few miscues. One of the biggest is when Trinity botches a Hurricanrana attempt, and you guessed it, there's a ref bump. SEX arrive and they attack both competitors, but Trinity picks up the win. I mainly featured this match because I was shocked by how bad Trinity did in this match because it was like a big match that they'd been building up to for months. So for this to be the conclusion, it was depressing. Number 9, Sting vs Jeff Hardy, Victory Road 2011. Yeah, I'm just going to keep this at number 9 and not talk about it too much. It's been done to death. But I couldn't make this list and not include it, could I? It's a world title match, it's the final match on the Victory Road pay-per-view, and Jeff Hardy has been in the back doing drugs all day. Bischoff comes out and announces changes to the match and stalls for time. The bell rings, he plays with the crowd for ages about if he's going to throw his t-shirt to them, and then he just kind of doesn't. Everything seems a bit weird, and Sting goes straight for him. He immediately hits the Scorpion Death Drop, with Jeff Hardy seemingly trying to kick out the pin. But it's a 3, and the match is over straight away. One of the worst pay-per-view endings of all time. This turned a lot of people off the TNA product, and some people never came back from it, so it was a terrible match. But because it was so short, it wasn't exactly filled with botches. It was just a bad match that everyone remembers for how short and how drugged Jeff Hardy was. Let's move on to something a lot more interesting. Number 8, Magno vs Adam Pearce from TNA, 4th of April 2013. It's a gut check match. So Gut Check was this concept that TNA ran with for a year or so, where they brought in people from the indies, they had a match, then the judges were given a chance to vote if they wanted to give the wrestler a TNA contract. Not much ever really came of this angle, but it was something a bit different at the time. Unfortunately, this is one of those ones that kind of killed the angle because it went so badly. It's also odd because Pearce is now in the WWE. But yeah, this match is probably one of the worst showcase debuts in TNA history. This one is a botch fest that starts off promising with some nice chain wrestling, but Magno tries to get a reverse Rana and he lands right on his back and misses Pearce entirely. Not even a minute after, he goes for a springboard moonsault, but this man nearly scorpions himself on the landing. At least Adam Pearce hits the cab driver slam on Magno. A moonsault to the outside barely grazes Pearce as well. Magno is certainly not earning a contract for this performance. The match is abruptly finished after Pearce rolls up Magno. This match did not make the future look bright for this round of gut check wrestlers, and Magno was never seen in TNA again. It also did Pearce a lot of damage, because there was a lot of hype for Pearce coming into TNA at this point, and then this happened. Number 7, Team 3D versus the Latin American Exchange for the NWA Tag Team titles in an electrified steel cage at Lockdown 2007. Don't get me wrong either, the idea of an electrified steel cage is also a neat idea, but the execution of this one, well, you get this match. You see, in a normal steel cage match, you can deliver some moves into it, and you can give some neat moments with the chain links. And on the other hand, an electrified steel cage, you cannot do this. You can't touch the thing because you'll get electrocuted. It has a completely different grid too. With a normal cage, you have some room to move in between to cushion your landing. This match will legitimately kill you if something mildly goes wrong. Literally, the high spot is putting the opponent's fingers onto the shock cage. As you hear from my description, this really does limit movement in the ring and really takes away from the brutality of what a steel cage match is all about. We do get a double superplex spot from the Dudleys. Hector Guerrero also tries attacking Conad, who is in a wheelchair, and he tries to open the door. At least Bubba tells him to get the table. Alright, he put it less politely than that. Also, I don't get why Hernandez doesn't just leave the ring when he has the chance. We do get a bigger spot where he hits a border toss on Devon into the cage, and the goofy ass lights go off with an electrocution sound effect, which shows off the true rubbish of this gimmick. It also can't be 2007 TNA without a Fire Russo chant. Highlight of the match is when Hernandez dives off the top of the cage through a table attempting to land on Devon. An air bump from Homicide on the cage, and a 3D would end this Russo-ridden wrestling travesty. Just a complete embarrassment to TNA. Number 6, Abyss vs Grado. Monsters Ball, Bound for Glory 2017. On paper, a Monsters Ball match between these two buffoons, in a nice way for Grado. Sounds pretty promising. A match filled with these two behemoths? I don't know, Abyss is the idiot and Grado is just fat. It's a match filled with high spots through tables and over-the-top weaponry. That's what you'd expect, but you get a scathing promo from Abyss before and he makes fun of Grado's fanny pack. We do get our wish in the beginning as Grado tosses in a bunch of random weapons. Some high spots include Abyss stapling Grado's forehead with a staple gun, Abyss struggling to set up a small barbed wire board between the apron and the barricade, Grado cheese grating Abyss's nutsack, and Abyss throwing a trash can at Grado off the top rope, who goes crashing through that board we mentioned earlier on. Abyss also has a spot where he gets knocked into the barbed wire and in turn it knocks his mask off. So is he Joseph Park now or Abyss? Brutal spot when Grado sandwiches Abyss between the barbed wire boards and gives him a splash. Laurel Van Ness appears now and she gives Grado an Umpredia and starts attacking him. Rosemary also appears in the match with a mist to Laurel, and Rosemary splits the mist in Abyss's face by accident. And then she takes a chokeslam bump into the tacks. Now here's another reason why this match is notoriously bad. It's the terrible bell keeping. It's a clear 2 count from the pin, but the bell guy still rings the bell. Already this match was slow and these two guys keep getting blown up. So we're just waiting to get from point A to point B. Abyss wins the match with a black hole slam onto the barbed wire board for the win. Yeah, this is probably the messiest, ugliest Monsters Ball match in TNA history. Number 5, James Storm vs Chris Harris, 6 sides of steel blindfold match, Lockdown 2007. Okay, who the hell booked this? Makes sense. Well, America's Most Wanted are broken up, and following how heated their rivalry would get, you'd think a normal cage match would probably be enough for this feud. But you'd be wrong. It's 2 wrestlers in a cage with blindfolds on. Now believe it or not, there is actually some sense to why they're blindfolded. James Storm blinded Chris Harris with a beer bottle, and for ages he had one eye, so this match was deemed to make it fair between the two. There's loud Fire Russo chants right at the start of the match. Harris and Storm are both just navigating their way around the ring, but they're always at opposite corners. It genuinely hurts hearing Tenay and Kalish try to make this sound interesting whilst 2 grown men literally fight the air for 5 minutes. These two were one of the most beloved tag teams in TNA, and we're going to have a pay-per-view match with this gimmick. At least Storm has a brain cell and tries to toss away the hood, before he goes right back to wobbling around. All this match needed was to be a one-on-one encounter, and considering this was at Lockdown, we can keep the cage, but blindfolds? They literally kept falling off Storm's head. More of a hood anyway. It was multiple times throughout the match. What's the point of the hoods if they already took them off? The match is indeed, as fans would say, boring. And of course, not only is this a steel cage blindfold match, but there's also a ref bump. Who would have thought? Storm takes the hood off and hits the last cool super kick on Harris for the victory. You wouldn't think WCW 1999 would be this wildly booked, but that's TNA in 2007 for you. Little note, these two did follow this match up with one of the best TNA pay-per-view matches of all time. So fair play, it was just the gimmick they were saddled with. Number 4, Raven vs Larry Zabisco. Hair vs Hair, Victory Road 2006. Times had been better for the 55-year-old Raven in 2006. This match is basically 2 old men wrestling each other around and looking way too out of shape. And they're both so out of prime, they couldn't probably have any more matches. Larry Zabisco for 80% of the match works Raven with a toe hold, and one of the lamest ref bumps ever also features, when Larry simply falls over from a toe hold. It's almost a handicap match. How many times did Larry Zabisco attack the referee in this one? And a Raven DDT ends the match. This was one of the worst and saddest matches in TNA history. Honestly, it's 2 great wrestlers, way too out of their time, trying to get another spot in the limelight. Also, this match was just so bad I completely forgot that it was hair versus hair. Security eventually brings Zabisco back to the barber's chair, but who the hell called for them? The struggle to get Larry into the chair is almost longer than the entire match. And also, these two, in a hair versus hair match? Raven barely has hair at this point, and Larry Zabisco would probably look better without hair. So not only was this a bad match, but this was a terrible gimmick choice. Number 3, Christy Hemi versus the big fat oily guy, tuxedo match, Against All Odds 2007. I mean, it pretty much speaks for itself. The Voodoo Kin Mafia had been at Christy Hemi for weeks at this point in this storyline, and she starts standing up against them. She doesn't like how sexist they are, but it comes off as hypocritical, going by everything Hemi's done in the past. Jim Cornette allowed Christy Hemi to compete in a tuxedo match for some reason. Hey, at least we've got bold shorts referee for this match. I can't believe they really named a wrestler for this. Seeing the things that Christy Hemi has been involved with in the past, this is nothing really too out of stretch. It's definitely not entertaining seeing Christy Hemi strip a fat oily guy. Just because it's in a wrestling ring, it doesn't mean it's entertainment. The fat jokes on commentary are also on full attack. Not to mention the fat bastard who can't keep his pants up during the whole thing. Shout out to Mike Tenay, who says something along the lines of it looks like bad adult entertainment. And I can't word it any simpler. Christy Hemi does beat the fat oily guy by stripping him down to his thong. This match is clearly a comedy match, but it's just more nauseating if anything. The commentary is gold though. Number 2, Jenna Morosca vs Charmel, Victory Road 2009. Jenna Morosca is a woman who won the TV show Survivor back in 2003. And with TNA's significant bank account in 2009, it only made sense to have this person who has absolutely no business being in the ring in a pay-per-view match. This match is basically a beauty contest between two inexperienced performers. And not to mention that whilst the match goes on, Charmel wrestles in a dress, so it limits her movement in this match. Some of the worst moments include Morosca not knowing how to run the ropes properly, and eating this elbow that just looks awful. Charmel and Morosca both look very amateur as they run around and scatter away from each other. It almost looks like school kids wrestling on the playground at times. Not to mention this match has a referee distraction where some jobber Bolt just gets some stomps on Morosca, and Charmel is pissed that it would be a 2 count. The infamous slap botch from Morosca is mostly what this match is known for, and Jesus, seeing it in the context of how bad this match is, it's everything that set women's wrestling back for an evolution. There's also a bad botch where Sojo Bolt is launched out the ring and Kong's meant to catch her, but she just doesn't bother. She doesn't even look concerned for her. She knows this match is terrible. So yeah, Morosca gets the win in this match after Kong headbutts Charmel on the outside. Awesome Kong's face says it all. And look at that pin. Jesus Christ. Number 1, Rebel vs Shelly Martinez. One night only, knockouts, knockdown 4. Jesus, I did a video of this whole event, and this is indeed the worst match of that pay-per-view. Turn down your headphones for this match if you're going to watch it. There's a lot of screaming. The start of this match literally consists of Shelly putting her hair up as Rebel takes off her jacket. And more screaming. Shelly just makes Rebel a pretzel throughout this match, and not to mention a ref distraction. Always gotta have one of those in a terrible match. The famous part of this encounter is when Shelly is caught in a terrible applied abdominal stretch and they fall to the ground. Shelly yells, "My vag," and "My vag hurts." What a way to kick off a new women's division. Shelly does a couple of hair whips on Rebel, but other than a terrible whatever this is meant to be, and then Rebel gets the victory off that. Off a botch that she did not even involve herself in. My god, that was a painful match. Probably the only thing that kept me intrigued is Shelly's implants, somehow not falling out of her top. Gotta be impressed in some capacity. Let the Hawk know down below if I missed any matches and what the matches were. Do you agree with our choices on this list? Are you impressed by Shelly Martinez's capacity? And if you don't agree with that, how do you have the audacity?